For thousands of years, the economy had a rhythm. A human decided, a human acted, a human supervised, a human approved, a human corrected the mistake. Every factory, every business, every market, every supply chain was ultimately dependent on human decisions. Then, software changed the speed of the economy. The internet changed the distance. Artificial intelligence is beginning to change something deeper, the requirement for human intervention. A system can now observe an environment, analyze information, make a decision, execute an action, measure the result, and continue, without waiting for a human to give the next instruction. This is the beginning of the autonomous economy, an economy where software does not simply assist human workers, but begins to act on behalf of them. An AI system can monitor a market. A robot can move through a warehouse. A vehicle can transport cargo. An algorithm can adjust energy consumption. A software agent can search for information, compare options, generate a response, and increasingly, take action. The important question is not whether this technology will become more capable. It will. The more important question is, who will own it? Because autonomy changes the economics of labor. It changes the economics of capital. It changes the meaning of a company. And it may change the relationship between ownership and production. The industrial economy required workers to operate machines. The digital economy required workers to operate software. The autonomous economy may create systems that operate themselves. And when the machines begin to act, the person who owns the machine may capture the value.
Traditional software waits. A human opens the application. A human enters the command. A human chooses the action. The software responds. The process is predictable. The human remains in the loop. Autonomous systems operate differently. They can receive a goal, then determine the steps required to reach it. They can search, compare, plan, execute, and adjust. This creates a new category of economic system, a system that is not simply a tool, but an actor. Imagine a company with an AI agent responsible for procurement. The agent monitors prices, tracks inventory, predicts demand, contacts suppliers, negotiates terms, and places orders. The human does not need to make every individual decision. The human sets the objective. The system manages the process. Now imagine that same logic applied to customer service, marketing, financial analysis, software development, logistics, manufacturing, energy management, and corporate operations. The result is not simply automation, it is delegation. The human gives the system a goal. The system determines the path. This changes the structure of economic activity because the number of decisions that can be made begins to expand beyond human attention. One person can only monitor a limited number of processes. An autonomous system can monitor thousands. One manager can only make a limited number of decisions. Software can make decisions continuously. One worker can only operate during a limited number of hours. Machines can operate around the clock. This is the economic advantage of autonomy. Not simply that machines can work faster, but that the number of processes one system can manage can scale dramatically. And when decision-making scales, the value of the system begins to change. An autonomous economy cannot be built from artificial intelligence alone. It requires infrastructure. At the bottom, there is energy. Machines require power. Above the energy layer, there is hardware, processors, sensors, robotics, vehicles, factories, data centers. Above the hardware, there is compute, the processing capacity required to run intelligent systems. Above compute, there are models, the systems that interpret information and generate decisions. Above data, there is data, the information that allows systems to understand the world. Above data, there is software, the interface through which autonomous systems interact with businesses and people. And above software, there are agents, systems capable of pursuing objectives.
This creates an autonomous stack: energy, hardware, compute, models, data, software, agents, machines, and finally, economic activity. Every layer depends on the layer beneath it. This is important because the future of autonomy may not be controlled by the company with the most impressive AI model. It may be controlled by the company that owns the most important layer of the stock. A company that controls compute can influence access to intelligence. A company that controls the operating system can influence how agents interact. A company that controls the robotic hardware can influence physical automation. A company that controls the data can influence what systems understand. And a company that controls distribution can determine where autonomous systems are deployed. This is how technological power becomes architectural power. The autonomous economy will not be one machine. It will be a stock of dependencies. And every dependency creates a potential choke point. The debate about artificial intelligence often asks one question: will AI replace humans? But that question may be too simple. The economy does not organize itself around job titles. It organizes itself around functions. A job is a collection of tasks. A manager makes decisions. An analyst processes information. A driver moves goods. A customer service worker responds to requests. An engineer solves problems. A marketer creates campaigns. A lawyer analyzes documents. A financial professional evaluates risk. The question is not whether an AI system becomes a human. The question is whether the system can perform enough of the underlying functions. Once a function becomes automatable, the structure of the job begins to change. Some tasks disappear. Others become supervised. New tasks emerge. And eventually, the number of people required to perform the original function may decline. This is how technological change has always operated. The machine does not need to become a human. It only needs to perform a valuable function more efficiently. The industrial machine did not become a worker. It replaced parts of physical labor. Software did not become an accountant. It automated parts of information processing. Autonomous AI does not need to become a manager. It may simply perform parts of management. This creates a deeper economic shift. The question becomes, who owns the system performing the function? If a company owns the AI system, the company may capture the productivity gain. If a platform owns the infrastructure, the platform may capture the toll. And if a small number of companies control the systems performing millions of economic functions, the distribution of wealth may change dramatically. Imagine a company with 10,000 employees. Now imagine that company deploying 1 million autonomous software agents. Not 1 million human workers, 1 million digital processes. One agent monitors inventory. Another analyzes customer behavior. Another manages advertising. Another reviews contracts. Another writes software. Another manages logistics. Another monitors energy consumption. Another handles internal support. Each agent performs a specific function. Together, they form an autonomous organization. The company does not need 1 million offices, 1 million desks, 1 million commutes, or 1 million human schedules. The software can operate continuously. It can be replicated, modified, deployed, and scaled. This creates a powerful economic difference. Human labor is constrained by time. Digital labor is constrained by infrastructure. A human can only work so many hours. An autonomous system can operate continuously. A human worker cannot be copied instantly. Software can. A human organization may take years to train thousands of workers. An autonomous system can be deployed across thousands of processes. This does not mean all work disappears. It means the economics of scaling work changes. The traditional company scales by hiring. The autonomous company may scale by deploying. The traditional organization grows through people. The autonomous organization may grow through systems. And this creates a new source of competitive advantage. The company that can deploy more capable autonomous systems may be able to operate at a scale that human organizations cannot match. The future corporation may not be defined by how many people it employs.
It may be defined by how many autonomous processes it controls.
This is where the autonomous economy becomes a question of wealth, because productivity is not the same thing as ownership. A machine can create more output, but someone owns the machine. An AI system can generate revenue, but someone owns the infrastructure. A robot can perform a task, but someone owns the robot. A software agent can manage a business process, but someone owns the system running the agent. The economic gains from automation therefore depend on ownership. If ownership is widely distributed, the benefits may be widely distributed. If ownership is concentrated, the benefits may be concentrated. This is not a new economic problem. The Industrial Revolution created factories. Factories increased production. But the ownership of factories determined who captured the profits. The Digital Revolution created platforms. Platforms increased scale, but ownership of platforms determined who captured the value. The Autonomous Revolution may create economic systems capable of operating with fewer human inputs. But the ownership question remains. Who owns the compute? Who owns the models? Who owns the data? Who owns the robots? Who owns the infrastructure? Who owns the agents? And who owns the companies that deploy them? The technology may be new. The economic question is ancient. Who owns the means of production? The difference is that the means of production are becoming increasingly intelligent. And when the machine begins to make decisions, ownership becomes even more powerful, because the owner may not simply control the asset. The owner may control an asset capable of managing other assets. This creates a potential compounding effect. Capital owns automation. Automation creates more output. More output creates more capital. Capital funds more automation, and the cycle continues. The question is not whether autonomous systems can create wealth. They can. The question is, who will capture the wealth they create?
For more than a century, the corporation has been a human coordination machine. People work inside departments. Managers coordinate teams. Executives allocate resources. Employees execute processes. The corporation exists to organize complexity. But what happens when software can coordinate complexity directly? What happens when an AI system can monitor every department, track every process, analyze every transaction, and adjust operations continuously? The corporation begins to change. The organization may become flatter, not because humans become more efficient managers, but because software can coordinate more processes directly. The traditional company may have layers: employee, manager, director, vice president, executive. Each layer exists partly because humans have limited attention. Autonomous systems can expand the amount of information that can be processed. This could reduce the need for certain layers of coordination, but it could also create a new kind of hierarchy. The human organization may become smaller. The autonomous infrastructure may become larger. A small number of executives may oversee a vast network of AI systems. The company could operate with fewer employees, but more software. Fewer managers, but more autonomous processes. Fewer physical offices, but more compute. The corporation may become less like a group of people and more like a machine for deploying intelligence. This creates a new competitive frontier. Companies will compete not only on products, they will compete on autonomous capacity. How many processes can the company automate? How quickly can it deploy new agents? How efficiently can its systems learn? How much infrastructure can it control? The most valuable company of the future may not be the one with the largest workforce. It may be the one with the most capable autonomous operating system.
The most intelligent and forward-looking explore the emergence of machine-to-machine economic activity. The most important development may not be AI replacing human workers. It may be AI systems beginning to work with other AI systems. Imagine an autonomous agent representing a company. It needs a service. It searches for another agent. The second agent offers a solution. The systems compare prices, evaluate performance, negotiate terms, and execute the transaction. No human needs to supervise every step. This creates the possibility of machine-to-machine commerce, autonomous systems buying, selling, negotiating, scheduling, and coordinating. A logistics agent may search for available transportation. A financial agent may evaluate the cost. A procurement agent may negotiate with suppliers. A manufacturing system may adjust production. And a software agent may update the infrastructure. The economy begins to move through a network of autonomous decisions. This could create a new form of digital labor market. Instead of humans competing for tasks, agents may compete for tasks. Instead of companies manually searching for suppliers, agents may discover suppliers automatically. Instead of a manager assigning work, a system may distribute work across a network. This could create extraordinary efficiency, but it also creates a new concentration risk. The agents may be autonomous. The infrastructure they use may not be. They may all depend on the same cloud platforms, the same AI models, the same payment systems, the same identity infrastructure, the same data networks, the same operating systems. The economy may become more autonomous at the edge while becoming more concentrated at the foundation. That is the central paradox. Autonomous systems can create more independent decisions, but if the infrastructure is controlled by a small number of companies, the economy may still depend on a small number of owners.
The promise of autonomy is freedom from human limitation. But autonomy, it does not mean independence. An AI agent may operate independently while still depending on infrastructure. A robot may move autonomously while depending on a cloud platform. A company may automate its operations while depending on a model provider. A digital system may make decisions while depending on data controlled by someone else. This creates new choke points. The first is compute. Intelligence requires processing power. The second is data. Systems require information. The third is models. Not every company can build the most advanced intelligence infrastructure. The fourth is distribution. An autonomous system must reach users and businesses. The fifth is physical infrastructure. Robots need factories, vehicles need roads, machines need energy. And the sixth is trust. Autonomous systems need to know who they are interacting with, who owns an asset, who is authorized to make a transaction, who is responsible when something goes wrong. The autonomous economy therefore creates a new infrastructure stack, and each layer can become concentrated. A few companies may control the compute, a few may control the models, a few may control the operating systems, a few may control the hardware, and a few may control the platforms where autonomous systems operate. The result could be a new type of economic architecture, millions of autonomous agents operating on top of a small number of foundational systems. The economy becomes more automated, but the underlying ownership may become more concentrated. This is why the question is not simply who builds the smartest AI. The question is, who owns the infrastructure that every autonomous system needs? The autonomous economy is arriving through many different doors. Artificial intelligence, robotics, cloud computing, autonomous vehicles, smart factories, algorithmic finance, digital agents, and automated logistics. Each technology appears separate, but beneath them, the same pattern is emerging. Machines are beginning to perform more functions. Software is beginning to make more decisions. Systems are beginning to operate with less human intervention. And the economic value created by those systems will depend on ownership. This is the question most discussions about the future of work avoid. Who owns the machine? Who owns the intelligence? Who owns the infrastructure? Who owns the data? Who owns the platform? Because technology does not automatically distribute wealth. Technology changes the architecture through which wealth is created, and the architecture determines where value flows. The industrial economy created factories. The digital economy created platforms. The autonomous economy may create intelligent systems capable of operating entire processes.
The company of the future may have fewer employees, but more autonomous agents, fewer managers, but more software coordination, fewer physical workers, but more machines, and perhaps a smaller number of owners controlling a much larger productive system. This does not make the future inevitable. Ownership can change, regulation can change, competition can change.
New technologies can create new opportunities, and systems can be designed differently. But the architecture must be understood first. Because if society focuses only on what autonomous systems can do, it may miss the more important question: who controls the systems doing it? The future economy may contain billions of autonomous agents, agents that negotiate, purchase, produce, transport, analyze, invest, and coordinate. But those agents will not exist in isolation. They will operate inside infrastructure, and infrastructure creates power. The company that owns the agent may capture value from the task. The company that owns the platform may capture a toll. The company that owns the compute may capture a fee. The company that owns the data may control the intelligence. And the company that owns the physical infrastructure may control the real-world execution. This is the architecture of the autonomous economy. A world where machines can increasingly work, but where the central economic question remains human. Who owns the system? Because the future does not belong only to those who build the smartest machines. It may belong to those who own the infrastructure that allows the machines to act. And when the economy begins to operate autonomously, the greatest source of wealth may no longer be the ability to perform a task. It may be the ability to own the system that performs the task at scale. The future will not simply ask, what can machines do? It will ask, who controls what machines can do? Nexera, decoding systems, architecting wealth.